Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of the Bank Marketing Show. I'm Dan Navalis. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah. Hey, Dan. I'm Chris Bates, the other host. Yeah. Good to be with you today.
Sometimes I'm the other host, and sometimes you're the other host.
Yeah, that's true. It works either way.
Yeah. We got another good one here for you today.
Yeah.
A couple episodes ago, we talked about, we did this webinar with Cadence, and we talked about kind of AI visibility and, how to help your bank show up more on AI. And one of the things that's, come out of that is we've been looking at a lot of websites lately, doing a lot of these little AI visibility projects, competitive analyses, and just, noticing some patterns and trends that I think, I don't know, for me at least, I kind of always knew about them, but just looking at them in a different way here. And so today we want to talk about some of the commonalities I see on a lot of bank websites. And, you see the episode title here of like, most of your websites are brochures. Most of your websites talk about your products really well.
Yep.
But that's an issue, right? That's the problem, is that everybody is doing that. And it is not super interesting.
Yeah. Dan, that fits extremely well. My team and I had a meeting yesterday with one of our community bank clients that we're beginning a new web design development project for. And we were talking about content structure, all of these things. And the CEO kept commenting, it's like, well, but people just come to our website just to get to the online banking.
Yeah.
And so what we then proceeded to talk about, and you and I are going to talk about it some today, is how can it not be that? How can it not be either a pass-through or just a brochure that has a, bullet point set of features of each of your accounts? And if that's what it is, and I'm not trying to be directly critical, Dan, but that's so much of what I think it has been for a number of years. And you mentioned it, but AI is changing that game. As is, I think, UX and UI for websites and what people's expectations are. I want to be able to go to a website and usefully find the information that I'm looking for. And, and I don't know any other way to say it this way, but I want to enjoy my journey, whether it's a brief one or whether I'm really investigating something. And as a web user, which we all are, everybody listening to this episode is a web user, we want to enjoy that journey, but we want to be spoken to, catered to, all of those types of things. I don't mean on behalf of everybody listening with us to sound selfish for all of us as humans, but that is kind of the point.
Yeah.
And if we get there, Dan, and we see all we get is a picture of the front of the bank building, and there's a bullet point list of what it is that you do, I'm being slightly sarcastic, but not really, then, it's not serving any of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's what we want to really dive into today, Dan, is to how to make it not those things.
Yeah.
How is it something that, it is a useful, helpful, serving journey for people. And by the way, it also benefits your brand and what it is that you do as a matter of business.
Yeah. And my take is, usually a little bit more cynical than yours just because of who I am. But I think of it too, to build on what you said, it's like everybody's just so busy that we don't even have the time to kind of map a list of product features to our problems, right? But that's what everybody does when they come to a site or go to shop anywhere online, is you're saying I've got this problem, I'm going to go search for it, and is what I'm looking at fix my problem? But because bank products are pretty commoditized, you can go anywhere. And so, your list of features is not going to be that much different from the next bank down the street. Yeah, you might have a higher rate, or you might have, a checking account with identity theft protection on it or something. But what we're really talking about is we're all out there looking for solutions to our problems.
Yep.
So if you can speak to those, what are the problems for which specific types of customers? And this is something, if you listen to the show, we talk about all the time. But this is what your website should be doing. Lead with their problem, not with your features. And if you look at your top 5 or 10 closest competitors, Google banks near me, and look who shows up in the results next to you.
Yep.
The vast majority of them are talking about features. We are a better bank, right? We have been a better bank for the last 100 years, and that's great. But it's not talking about if you are looking to retire in the next 10 years, if you are looking to buy recreational land in this county, if you are looking to buy your first home, we are the experts in that.
Yep. Part of the trickiness in it is how do we speak into those things and into multiple audiences really easily, and also be true to who we are. And I'm talking about community bankers, right? As a whole, that are highly relationship focused and highly relationship and community oriented people by definition and by truth and by reality. So I think I'm kind of answering my own question, is how do we speak into those audiences and at least grab their attention and differentiate from the big regional and national banks that are more matter of fact and are more people are going to be assumptive that there's a good chance I'm going to feel like a number, if I go to this big one. But so what is it that these guys do as a community-based financial institution that is about the people, the relationship, and all that? But Dan, the brand has to enforce and reinforce that. And around that brand is that messaging, and the website is the lobby that people are going to walk into digitally, correct? And so what kind of, are we giving them that welcoming, fitting feel when they walk into our digital lobby, or is it just transactional and brochure?
Yeah. Is it right? Welcome to our lobby. Here's a brochure about our checking accounts. Here's a comparison table.
Right. You wouldn't dare do that.
Wouldn't do that.
Yeah. Your CSR is going to greet them, shake their hand, and engage with them. So let's do that with your website.
Yeah. So now there is a spot on the site for those tables and for that information.
Of course.
It's not that a lot of banks are putting the comparison table on their homepage, but a lot of them jump right into better accounts. And so but that's the type of stuff people will click to go find that stuff. But if you're not welcoming them in, showing pictures of real people, like most bank websites, you're presented with, we have checking accounts and here's a stock image of some happy looking person that has nothing to do with our bank.
Yeah.
And it just, it may look nice design wise, and it may get your current customers over to online banking really quickly, but it's not engaging.
Yeah.
And, so many banks do that there's a real low hanging fruit kind of opportunity to just lead with the story and lead with what your customers need and what you can do to solve their problems.
Yeah.
And
that's what and your analytics traffic will show that the vast majority of the traffic that you're getting, especially the ones that you can ascertain are from your current customers, are coming for some type of a service need or something. So how easy are you making that for them? How to sign up for this or to get more information about that and all that. But are you doing that around the fact that you are welcoming, that you are this as a persona, as a brand persona? And Dan, to your point also, and that every bit that you can, and that, by the way, we're really good at this. We're really good at being a small business bank or an ag bank or what you are. And the more that you can differentiate and define yourself and then speak to that audience, they're going to feel at home a lot more quickly, because you've got about 2.7 seconds. With that banner image showing and what messaging you're giving there to give that first impression on a website.
Yeah.
So that, Dan, that goes right into, and you and I were having some conversation about this before we jumped into the episode today about what you're leading with. and what is it that you're leading with?
Yeah. What are the top 2 or 3 types of customers that you serve the best?
Mm.
Right. Who do you serve the best, and what do you solve for them?
Yeah.
We say, like, nobody cares about your accounts.
Yeah.
Nobody wants an account, right? They want a safe place to put their money.
Mm.
So you're solving, I mean, that's the broad case, you're solving security for them, but the specific type of soybean farm that you serve well, like there's a shared set of problems that all of your soybean farmer customers share.
Mm-hmm.
So what are those? And can you put the story of the success that you gave to that type of customer on your site?
Yeah.
And lead with that. And
Mm-hmm.
the third or fourth paragraph of that story is, and we did this through this type of flexible loan that aligned with the soybean farmers,
Mm-hmm.
annual seasonal process.
Yeah.
Right. And it ties back to the product, because you're working up towards the hook and the call to action, but you're not leading with that.
Yeah.
Most banks flip it and say, here's our seasonal ag loan product. And, here's the 20 bullet points on this. And by the way, it helped this farmer, but you're leading with the wrong piece of it.
Mm. Yeah, Dan, here's one of the, as humans, sometimes we look at our spouse or partner, or maybe we're on our own. And sometimes the hardest thing to do is look in the mirror, figuratively and literally, and to kind of take a hard look at what is a truth. So here is a truth about a bank website. That you had previously labeled this on one of our prior episodes as the SWOT test. Okay. So if the content and imagery on your website, and if my team could come in and peel your brand off of it and put your competitor's brand on there, and it said the same thing and all that, and it still made sense, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That you have not differentiated.
Yeah.
You have not made a statement about who you are, who you serve well, or how you serve well, or the community that you serve well, or, I could go on, but, so there are lots of different ways, vertical and horizontal, to speak into it. But yeah, if you could put one of your competitors' logos on your website, and put their brand colors on it, but say the same thing and it still works, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's what we need to affect change about.
Right.
That's leading with the wrong thing.
Right.
Yeah. That's what your example a few minutes ago. We're a better bank. We've been around for 100 years. Okay. Most of your competitors can make the same claim.
Yeah. And that's just social. That's just the social proof that goes, that's part of the backup, part of the thing that they might need to see to reach out. But it's not, and I think it's even more nuanced today, because so many people throw their money into fintechs and they don't care. They're not looking for that FDIC logo, and they should be, maybe, but they don't, or they leave a bunch of money in PayPal or something. So it's even like, we've been around 100 years is almost not even nuanced enough, and it can start to convert to, we have been around, and here's why you should care. Here's the problem that solves for you. It means real security, and it means we're not going away if we don't get our next round of funding and that type of stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to tie it always back to the way the way the customer is thinking. And I think that, as we're talking about, like, kind of leading with problems, that's the key. Is like, what do you lead with? You're leading with the wrong thing is kind of the first point. The second point is like, you lead with the problems, but then all this proof and social proof stuff is the backup. It makes that seem even more. It backs up what you're saying about the problems, to make you even more trustworthy and authoritative.
Yep.
And then you're not just a fintech that didn't exist 6 months ago saying, put your entire life savings into an account with us.
Yeah.
And start differentiating. But it's not the first line. That 100 years is not the first line.
For sure. Are we going to tell your story and that authoritative statement content on the about page and on some other, in some other elements and areas a little further down the pyramid? Absolutely. Sure. But I like the way you just said that, Dan. That's not what we're leading with.
Yeah.
Because to your potential customer or even to your customer, that's not what matters the most.
Yeah.
What matters the most is how can we make it about them? And the answer to that is that lead with the problem. Talk about how you can solve, something, or how you're really good at XYZ.
Well, I've seen a lot of institutions that you go to their site and they'll say, we are a better bank. And then you go to their Google reviews and they're terrible.
Mm.
And if most small community banks have really good reviews.
Right.
And so like what happens is you lead with the problem on your site and say, don't say we're a better bank, but tell the stories.
Mm.
And then people see the reviews. But people are going to be looking at both because it's really easy to do it. And especially with AI searches, it does it all for you. And so, it's going to call out and say, hey, this bank says they're better. This bank says they're different because of this, but their Google reviews are terrible.
Yeah.
And, you as a smaller bank can probably do both.
And Dan, we've mentioned AI here at 3 or 4 points already in the episode. So let's throw out here a really important note taker point here, and that is, what the LLMs are looking for when they are answering questions, because that's what utilization of search has become. Is not they're not going to type in what's the best bank near me in Jackson, Mississippi, or Miami, Florida, or Seattle, Washington. What's the best bank near me? That's not the question. The question is, whatever. I'm a young homeowner, this, that, or I'm trying to start a business and so on and so, what's the best bank for me to work with around that, those types of things. And AI is going to give that answer, as best it can, ascertained from well-organized information that is answering those questions or addressing those pain points. So, Dan, everything we've talked about in this episode up to this point is not just a labeling issue. It's not just the emotional appeal of the first few seconds that someone comes to the website. It's that. But it's also addressing the issue of where AI is taking engagement, right?
And it's a really interesting way you put it is that, pre AI, and when you go to Google, a lot of people would type best bank.
Yep.
Because it's sort of shorthand for like a bank with good reviews and a bank with well-written website or whatever. But when you use an LLM, nobody's saying like, hey, ChatGPT, like what's the best bank near me? People are saying more of, I'm trying to buy a home, but I have limited down payment or whatever, right? Whatever their specifics are. I'm the soybean farmer with these types of issues.
Yeah.
And they're asking LLMs to go out and like map out all the different accounts and the customer service and all the stuff and find me the best option for me, not the best bank for me.
Yeah.
And, and if your website might be recommended if you defining the products, because it's like looking at that information, but it's for sure going to recommend you first if you say why you're the best bank for a particular kind of soybean farmer. And then that soybean farmer is like searching for that stuff. And I'm taking this soybean farmer example too far, but you get the point of like, people are searching for their problems. All like I said at the top of the episode, like all any of us are ever doing, we're too busy to like just learn about checking accounts. All we're ever doing is looking for solutions to our problems. So if you're talking to that, and the third point we're going to, it's a good segue to the third point of like, you're writing for a person. You're writing to a specific person, that soybean farmer, and not just a soybean farmer with a certain size of farm, which means they have a certain, operating loan need. And then you can write for that.
Yeah.
And then your answers get the stuff you write gets recommended when people are searching for solutions to the problems.
Absolutely. Yeah. And who is it that you're speaking into? So if my wife and I just moved to this new town and we're looking for a bank, that conversation, or your example of the soybean farmer, or countless others. And so talking practically, Dan, about how do you write for the person, is that your product and service pages need to tell a story about what, who, how you're serving in the initial paragraph,
Yeah.
and in the initial structure that then us marketers are going to take and do schema markup and make sure that, the search entities are seeing, this story that if you're a small business owner, we do this well for you. And then there's some features, and then there's an FAQ that's answering the top 10 questions that people are really asking. You and I have talked about this in prior episodes too, but now we're talking about web content and web structure, is that, ask your frontline staff what your customers are actually asking for or dealing with or worried about, those kinds of things. And then you need to ask those questions, in an FAQ and in other formats on the content of the website itself, and answer them well.
Yeah. Your job as a marketer, right, in general, and aside from websites for a second, is to really get in the shoes of those customers you really want to attract. And the problem for banks is really that you want to attract everybody. And so that makes it easy to not ever try to get in any one particular customer's shoes. And so what leading with problems requires, is to pick three of your top types of customers and really understand them. And understand their problems, understand their day-to-day, understand what questions they're asking when they come into the bank. And that's the type of stuff you need to put out there. It's hard to do, but marketing has moved pretty quickly from kind of content play to this problem focus. Problem focus play has always been important, but it's much more important now with the way people are interacting with LLMs to get the information they need.
Yeah, and to your point, Dan, this episode we're talking about the website holistically, but scroll back a couple of episodes, just a few episodes ago, here for this on Bank Marketing Show, and we did the DIY AEO episode. And in that, we gave some specific tips around how you can do some of this around AI, and ask these questions and answer them and structure this and do some of these things yourself as a marketer, as a bank leader, as a C-suite person, and kind of how you can help your bank do this. And so it's not, you don't always have to have an agency like us do all the work for you. Or if you do have a partner that can do a lot of this for you, make sure that this is the direction that it's going, right?
Yeah.
That this is the sense of the website and that it feels that way. Again, I emotionally make it feel like it's your digital lobby.
Right.
You would never let your lobby be disorganized. You would never let people not be greeted. You would never let people, not be able to easily find what it is that they're looking for, even if someone needs to help them get to that next stage. So how do you do that? Well, do the website the same way, and make it feel personal, as best you can. How is it that cash is kept and managed for you as a small business owner in a way that's going to, oh wow, that actually helps my business a little bit. One more thing, as Forrest Gump said, one less thing.
Yeah, and help them understand the process to get to where they need to be. And people may know. The other way to think about it too is like, people are smart and they may know, like, well, the solution I need is a ACH provider. I don't know. But it feels like such a big lift to like implement one and deal with it. So let people know you can help. Outline the process and make it feel a lot easier. And that's great too, because LLMs, like, people might ask about the process to an LLM, and they're not asking about a specific bank that has that solution, but they're asking about the process, and the LLM might find your site and and say, hey, 123 Bank says this, and then you'll be kind of recommended and be part of the conversation.
And Dan, I think it's also important for us to say, what we're not saying is an absolute necessity is to get a new website for everyone. Now, if you don't have a highly mobile responsive website that's doing lots of the right things and has a really clean, modern reflection of your brand, then maybe you do need to redesign your website and do all of that. And aside, you do not have to use your core provider those are templatized and not always the way to go. And they're sometimes even more difficult to organize content in the ways that we're talking about. So you can do that through an agency like Dan or mine and accomplish everything that you need and without tremendous expense. But what it is that we're talking about today is if you're good or contractually roped into the website that you've got, we're trying to give you ways that you can restructure content and do things that are going to be impactful if you've got to work with the website that you've got. And if it's been years, you may want to look at replacing it, and updating and redesigning. But if not, then fine. So much of what we've talked about today can still be highly practical and usable and doable and can make a big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, most sites, if you're done in the last 10 years, you got are fairly modern. So depending on the level of access you have to it, it's like the bones are there. There's always improvements you can make, and website technology does advance a lot. But that's not, you don't have to do that. You start with if your message is going to land really well, it's going to land on no matter what tech it's built on. Mm-hmm. But get it to land really well, and maybe then you decide to rebuild it. But don't let this problem-focused messaging be gated by, the technology of your site. You can change text on it, and make it much better with whatever it is you have.
Yeah. So Dan, I think the key items that we've tried to touch on here around website are differentiation. They're about finding that white space, which really necessitates having messaging that's speaking into what your competitors aren't necessarily speaking into.
Yeah,
and so you're writing for that person and solving problems. We're talking about AEO and things that are not future tense at all. These are today, right now, and going forward. Is that AI and the utilization of LLMs and everything that we're doing is real, and it's here, and you need to move on this, and niche messaging and these things that we've covered today that, again, are doable. And Dan, to offer this again, if you don't know where to start, reach out to Dan and I, because our teams are doing lots of projects around competitive analysis and AI visibility, and can help give you this direction that, that's what they mean about this content. You're not staring at a blank chalkboard and don't even know where to start, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of good, quick ways to get started, and we're happy to help point you in the right direction.
Yep. So go to bankmarketingshow.com. That's our home base. That's our website where we seek to write for you as our person. You are our people.
We try to write in problem language for you.
Exactly. And so, that's our entire purpose, is to be of resource to you. So go there and check it out, and continue to subscribe and follow and check out other episodes where we're continuing to be helpful to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we'll see you down the road.
All right.
Thanks for joining us. To go deeper or get access to some of the valuable nuggets from today's show, go to bankmarketingshow.com. There you'll find episodes, links to resources, and much more. Be sure to subscribe wherever you find your podcasts. And join us next time.